It's Monday, June 30th. Let's level up. End of quarter, a little bit of lock-in. Traders took the up open to lock in some gains. Of course, some of these stocks have been up gigantic. By the end of the day, though, it was a nice recovery, although there were some potential excess highs in the futures today at the end of the day, so we'll cover that in a second. But with regard to VIX, we are now starting to make some higher lows, even as the market's making some higher highs, so that is something to pay attention to. Yeah, it could be a little bit base effects. We technically still have the look below and fail of the 611 low at 1623, so bulls will need to get VIX back below there in order for still higher prices. Anything below 1702 I think is still okay. And if there were to be a bounce, I think we would go to somewhere between 1822 and 1852, which is the 20 and 10 MA on the underside of the old up channel, respectively. With regard to the futures, we do have some excess, and we have a little bit of a lower high in the overnight session. I think that we could use the 100 MA 30 minute as the must hold. That has been the support that we saw a couple of sessions ago. Bulls generally are better over the 20 MA 30 minute as well, so over 20 MA 30 minutes still bullish to the upside, over 100 MA 30 minutes still healthy. If that were to snap, we could see the 100 MA 30 minute, and then we'd see. I would be targeting the prior lows for any pullback, so in this instance we could see today's low of day at 62.24 quarter, prior day's low at 61.83 quarter. I'd feel better, of course, if we made a new high over 62.65 half, but it makes some sense that there's a little bit of resistance up here. It wouldn't surprise me to see a pullback even to 6100, and then that, of course, is the must hold. Basically, if we couldn't hold 6200, we could come down to 6100, that whole $100 table. Q's similar setup. Bulls there will need to hold today's low of day at 22,781. If not, we'll probably pull back to the prior day's low at 22,660, and then we'll see. Bit of an excess high there as well at 22,934.75. Bulls will need to clear these numbers in order to repair that. Excess highs on weekdays and RTH sessions tend to be a little bit iffy, although again it was the end of the quarter, it is a holiday shortened week. I could feel that with the traffic today. So we have a little bit of an anomaly this week, of course, because we have a jobs report on Thursday, and Thursday's a half day with Friday being closed. Usually jobs reports are on Friday. So my guess is once we get through Wednesday, and even into Wednesday, it could be a bit of a skeleton crew, and then you may even see some traders phoning it in for the jobs report basically early morning on Thursday, and then that's sort of end of it, with the market closing that day at 1 and futures stopping trading at 1:15. As far as SPY goes, we got that new green channel high. I think you could use low of day at 615.04 as a stop. Anything below the 613.23 though would constitute a look above and fail. I think we would come down to 605.06 and probably somewhere between the 10 MA and 20 MA, currently 605.06 and 601.62. If we were to do the channel low tomorrow, I'm not expecting a big break like that, but it would be 597.70 and rising depending on how many days it were to take to get down there. On the upside, the 2 times range, as we've discussed, is 658.82. As far as Qs go, they got a little bit of help from Apple for a change. A little bit of some gravestone dojis up here at the high. I think the 549.01 low of day is a good stop. There is a pullback. It could be to 536.88, which was the 1218 Fed day high from back in last year. And then, of course, the most recent high, the 219 high, at 540.81. So 540.81 down to 536.88 is the must hold. It's also the 10 MA. 20 MA is a little lower at 533.48, but catching up. Our 2 times range we're using there is the 573.71. Speaking of Apple, they got a little bit of bounce today because they may be outsourcing some of their AI, which I think would get people excited because they've been lagging so badly. Currently the 50 MA is 202.84. Anything above that I do think could remain long. I see some resistance at 208.42 and then somewhere between 212.69 and 214.66, that being the 100 MA and 50% fib respectively. I do ultimately think we could see the gap fill up to the 223.89, but it may take a while. Back below the 50 MA gets dicey, and anything below the 20 MA at 200.66 could even be a short. If you want to be aggressive, you could use the 50 MA at 202.84. I did put on a small trade today. I have a couple of trades going in Apple. So I bought the 210-225 call spread in September, and I sold the 190-180 put spread in September also. I'm also currently long the 185, short 175, short 165 put spread overright. Nvidia is still strong, but possible dubstep situation here. A bit of a lower high today, although very incremental. 155.96 is a good stop there. I think it's still fine as long as it's over 152.89, though. That's the real breakout level. These are just would be small checkbacks. Netflix remains bullish. Don't let it get below 1305.48 on you. I think the 2.618 could be in play here at 1454.41, but let's not get too greedy. Just keep trailing up stops. If you want to use 1321.21 on at least part, I'm good with that. And I would be booking some gains into some pops here. The stock has been on fire, and we're coming into earnings on 7/16. Microsoft got our 500 target. If a topping tail, 495.33 is a good stop, low of day. The 10 MA is the must hold there at 486.40. If not, we'll see the 20 MA at 478.55. I'm good with like a 1x2 or 1x1x1 put ratio, targeting the 468.35 breakout. I think that could get retested if there's a liquidation break in the market, but I do like the idea of booking 500. Tesla is a little bit of lower highs each day here. If you want to use the high of day as a stop on the short at 325.58, I'm good with that. 100 MA to me would be a buy the dip at 297.99. We do also have a 50 MA about to cross the 200 MA, so there could be some support in those 312s to 313 area. I also think that if we were to get over 331.05, that would get the Mobros back in play. That's the 3-day high. TLT trade getting a little bit of love. We've been targeting that 90-ish area. So far, so good. I'd like trimming some into the 100 MA at 88.29 up to 88.69, which is the 50% fib. The 61.8 is up at 89.97, and the 200 MA is 90.14 and falling, so that area will likely be some stiff resistance, at least on the first pass. As far as Bitcoin goes, we got up to the resistance at 108,960 to 110,150. It is pulling back here. Just don't let it get below the 20 MA on you, 106,528. If you do, you risk a bigger, larger liquidation break. Gold still kind of chopping around. Nice bounce today. It needs to get back up over the 50 MA at 306.13, but could run into some resistance around the 308.88 area, which is the 20 MA. I'd feel better buying the dip down to 291.78, which has been the reference low. I think gold is going to chop around in range here for a bit, though. Dollar is starting to get a little bit stretched on the downside, which is interesting that gold isn't continuing to beast up. Could see the dollar maybe getting down to channel low. It might not be a straight shot at 95.911, but the 78.6 of the range there is 94.68.1. The 97.21-ish area had been support. It may now offer up some resistance, so keep that in mind. Lower dollar will be good for earnings, and I think that's why you're seeing stocks like Meta catch a bid, probably Apple too as well. Speaking of Meta, bit of a look above and fail today. Bulls need to get over 740.91 and hold. We got my 2 times range targeted at 742.79, so trade over in that one. We're up near highs. We do have some potential excess highs, getting a little bit stretched. We did see the end of the quarter. I'm not so sure that traders are going to re-up here ahead of the weekend, because why not just wait until next week when everybody's back? All the big guns are going to be on the beach anyway, so we may have a little bit of a buyer strike here. I don't necessarily know that we're going to get a huge sell-off here, because there's that old saying, don't sell a dull market, but I do think it could be choppy, and if there are new highs, they may just be small and incremental. Probably a good idea to still lock in some profits into pops here. I've talked before about July being sort of tops in summer bull markets, so usually that happens mid-July. Maybe we get a little bit of a pump the next couple of weeks to start off the quarter, and then maybe some pullback. Like and follow for more.